Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a brand new Shadow Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go, Shadow Primeape. With the new Shadow event, Shadow Mankey has finally released into Pokemon Go. Annihilape, of course, did get nerfed with the nerf to counter, but Primeape does have access to Legacy Karate Chop. And with a moveset like Karate Chop, Night Slash, and Close Combat, honestly, it's off to a terrific start. But Shadow Primeape is ever so slightly glassier than Shadow Machamp, so the question will be, can it take the hits long enough to take advantage of this amazing moveset? So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at some Great League practice battles featuring Shadow Primeape. In the first match, picked up a pretty awkward lead Toxapex into Dunsparce, so I safe switch into Malamar, and Malamar will be met with Serperior. Serperior, honestly, not the Pokemon that I was expecting to bait out here, but this is still fine. My goal is to either play for switch advantage or play for getting them low enough that I can Karate Chop down with Shadow Primeape. Because I know that Shadow Primeape up energy is incredibly deadly, my opponent ends up committing the shield, and I'm just going to let Malamar go. Frenzy Plant does not KO. I stop tapping intentionally, so that way I can get 3 Karate Chops of farm with the Shadow Primeape. In the back, opponent has Chestnut, farming up, and I'm going to fire off this Close Combat. This Close Combat into the Chestnut. They let it go. It fully one-hit KOs. And now this Shadow Primeape is off to the races, firing off another Close Combat. We're going to see the shield from the Dunsparce, and it's just too little, too late for the opponent. Shadow Primeape up energy, just devastatingly effective. We get to another Close Combat. Good night, Dunsparce. And we're able to take the Game 1 win. Hopping into the next match, picking up a great lead Toxapex into Talonflame. Opponent safe switches into Dunsparce, and that will swiftly be answered with the Shadow Primeape. As I mentioned at the start, Shadow Primeape is glassier than Shadow Machamp, so a drill run almost KOs, but I can survive the rollouts and build up to the back-to-back close combats. This will guarantee either both shields or switch advantage. Opponent is going to save the shields and give up switch. They send back in the Talonflame, and I'm going to be launching the Close Combat. This move may be resisted, but it sure does not look it. Look at the damage onto the Talonflame. But my happiness is short-lived, as in the back is Gastrodon, and Gastrodon can prove to be a bit of a tricky Pokemon here. I will commit the shield, and my Malamar gets baited. That is very unfortunate. The good news for me is that the Psywaves are adding up quite a bit onto the Gastrodon. Gastrodon is going to be hit with foul play after foul play in this matchup. My worry now is that my opponent can probably just go for a Body Slam and then farm me down. I think I have to let this go and save the shield. My opponent is going to switch out into the Talonflame, and Talonflame will swiftly be answered with the Toxapex. I believe they should be able to make a Fly plus a Brave Bird, and I feel like I have to respect the Brave Bird. So they do get there, so I am going to have to respect a potential Brave Bird. Most people are running the Fly and the Brave Bird moveset. They're actually running Fly Flame Charge, as they don't throw it. But the good news here is that Gastrodon, while it does have residual energy, it does not have enough for the Earth Power. I believe they are 5 energy short of that Earth Power right here. So I get to click the Brine. Brine knocks out the Gastrodon and takes the win. Great lead in the next match, Toxapex into Araquanid. Opponent is going to save switch into Low Kicks, and I'm just going to stay in here for now. I could have potentially brought in the Shadow Primeape. Primeape, of course, does resist Sucker Punch. I was a little worried that in the 2 shield, I might get Sucker Punch down, but in hindsight, I could have just brought in the Primeape instantly. But I will end up grabbing a shield from my opponent, and now I'm going to bring in the Shadow Primeape. Shadow Primeape is going to be hit with the Trailblaze. Trailblaze, of course, will be boosting up their attack, so now these Sucker Punches are shredding through my health. I leave on very low HP, but with 2 close combats loaded, we saw how much damage this did to Talonflame. Now let's see the damage on the Araquanid. Araquanid, even bulkier than Talonflame, but a second close combat will be enough to put them into the red health. In the back is a Shadow Scizor, so the opponent rocking a triple bug team. If they're running X-Scissor, I'm in trouble here. But if it's Night Slash, then I just have the Game 1. So I will commit the shield. It is the Night Slash. I'm good here, but they end up boosting, and that's my Luscon right there. Oh, that is so tragic, because with the boost, they can actually farm me all the way down. I still could have potentially had a win con if I just threw the move on my Malamar before switching, but after the boost, I'll be honest, it's pretty late at night here. As you can see, the event started at midnight. I was really lucky. Literally, the first fighting grunt that I encountered gave me a Shadow Mankey, and it was actually good IV as well, so then I just had to rush home to make these footage. But obviously, since it is past midnight, my plays might be a little questionable in this video. Alright, we move into the next match, Toxapex versus the Dragonair. If they have some kind of a fairy in the back, I need to bait it out. So I'm going to tank a Body Slam, bait with a Brine, and then it is Malamar time. Malamar will take quite a bit of damage from an Aqua Tail, so I will shield and farm all the way down if they're willing to stay in here. But they're not. They're going to bring out Toxapex. I'm very happy to bait out the Toxapex. This Malamar is intentionally having very weird IVs because it will get a Psywave Breakpoint against most Toxapexes. It looks like I'm getting the Psywave Breakpoint versus their Toxapex because look how quickly my Malamar is just shredding through their HP. Opponent is going to fire off the last second move. At this point, they can just go for the Brine to pick up the knockout. If I bring in the Primeape, I have to shield, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring in the Toxapex. Toxapex will force their energy, and then I can snipe with a Karate Chop from the Shadow Primeape to get a small energy advantage. I know they have the Dragonair. In comes the Dragonair. They realize they can't get a move, and it's Diggersby in the back, and this game is over. I launched the close combat. Close combat is going to be shielded up. Unfortunately, I do frame drop there, so my opponent is actually able to fire off their energy, but the good news is it's not going to matter, because the Dragonair is so low that even though my defense is -4, I just have to live 2 Dragon Breaths here, so in comes the Dragonair, I get the Karate Chop down, and I'm able to take the win. We move to the next match, leading Toxapex against a shiny Ariados. What an incredible flex. Ariados does win the 1 straight Trailblaze, so my plan is I'm just not going to use a shield. If my opponent has an Azumarill in the back, which is definitely possible, people love coring Ariados with water, then I'm going to be in a bit of a tough situation. But up energy and up shields, hopefully my backline will still be able to do okay. My opponent actually goes for a lunge here. I was a bit surprised to see the lunge, just because I know you can win the 1 straight Trailblaze, but I'm interested to see how this play pattern will play out. My opponent is farming up quite a lot of energy. I'm just short of the Brine here. I'm 1 off. I think I might live the Trailblaze. I do live the Trailblaze. Opponent is going to switch out into Kanto Marowak, and now I have a choice to make. Do I think that Primeape is better in back, or that Malamar is better in back? I decide that it's going to be Malamar, so I'm going to bring in the Primeape, and my goodness, these Mud Slaps. Primeape cannot take fast move pressure at all. I'm going to look to farm up a ton of energy. I am over a Night Slash here, which is very nice in residual energy, but I've taken a heavy toll. Let's see what they have in the back. Opponent has the Moltres. They try for a catch onto their Ariados, and I will be forced to burn the shield as they go for the lunge. I need to switch out into the Malamar. And this game is going to come down to the wire. I'm going to farm up a ton of energy. This is going to force their hand and make them Brave Bird. I do have a chance to win this. I just have to land a close combat. I farm up. I'm at double Night Slash. So if my opponent shields this and I live 1 more Sucker Punch, then I can win. But I faint as I get the close combat. And unfortunately, this game will be a loss. We've got a bit of a core breaker on our hands in the next match as I lead Toxapex into the Shadow Drapion. Shadow Drapion, of course, is going to do well against the Toxapex and the Malamar, so this is not an ideal situation, made even worse by a defense drop, as now I'm a bit worried that I can't comfortably tank this crunch, so I'm just going to bring in the Malamar. At the very least, Malamar can survive a crunch. It's going to do a ton of damage since I am attack weighted. The crunch lands, and there's another crunch debuff. Oh my goodness, this is just painful. I will commit the shield as they go for the Aqua Tail. I'm going to look to farm up and then fire off the superpower. My timing there wasn't the best. Unfortunately, the game was a bit stuttery tonight. My opponent actually shields, and this does give me hope, because now I have shield parity back and I can get a farm down with the Primeape. And my opponent gives me the farm down. They don't switch out. In the back is going to be a Shadow for Alligator, and I will make it to the close combat, winning charge attack priority. Close combat into Feraligatr, picks up the 1-hit KO. In the back is Drifblim, and immediately, as soon as I threw the Night Slash, I knew it was a mistake because my defense was debuffed. I just took like 25% of my HP from one of those Astonishes. Oh my goodness, that is so unfortunate. I just had to switch out and save the energy because now, I mean, they should just be doubled up on Icy Winds here. It's going to come down to, can I live 3 Astonishes? If I got the Night Slash, I could have won. But again, another very, very close loss. Picking up a great lead in the next match, Toxapex versus Feraligatr. Feraligatr staying in this matchup, which is a bit of a surprise. They're going to switch out and save switch into the Clodsire, and I'm going to respond with Malamar. Clodsire save switch, not a fun Pokemon for this team to see. Clodsire, of course, is able to successfully beat Shadow Primeape, and it's able to beat the Toxapex as well. And Malamar can do pretty okay into it, but up energy, Claude is definitely winning. So I am going to commit the shield here as they will go for Sludge Bomb number 2, and I'm going to look to farm up as much as I can. I want to try and save energy, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a Superpower. This way, if my opponent brings in the Feraligatr and they don't throw it instantly, I can land a Superpower, but my opponent has perfect awareness of my energy, so they will launch that Hydro Cannon to deny my energy. Back in comes the Toxapex. I build up to the Sludge Wave, and I'm going to bait. Baiting here, getting the shield would be very nice, and I'm able to get the shield. In the back is going to be Diggersby. A lot of people liking these normal types, and my goodness, the Shadow Primeape absolutely feast. Primeape is going to be committed to shield. It's going to be the Fire Punch from the Diggersby. This is not enough for a Scorching Sands. This is only a Fire Punch. So I can tank that no problem. And now I'm at the back-to-back close combat. So this game should just be over. Close combat picks up the KO. In comes Feraligatr. And this will guarantee the final shield. Hoping the switch clock will be up. It's just not up in time to save it. But the good news for me is that Toxapex will be able to take this win. I actually get a one-turn lag as I bring in the Toxapex. So I don't get my poison jab. But the good news is I had so much residual energy from baiting earlier that I can just get to a Sludge Wave. So I can get to the Sludge Wave and take the win. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, Toxapex into Diggersby. I'm going to save switch into Malamar. Opponent responds with a Clefable. Oh my goodness. Well, I definitely needed to bait this out, but man, this is not an ideal spot to be in. Foul play is going to land. Opponent, oh, they miscount. They miscount and they let me get the foul play. If this lands, I can force switch. They are going to end up committing the shield to guarantee that I can't just 2-shield farm down with Psywave, but this does mean that I've forced a shield advantage, and now I can just farm down with Toxapex, and I have that shield advantage for Primeape. They're going to go for a Meteor Mash. They switch out into a Diggersby. Oh my goodness. So if they're hard pivoting out, then clearly they felt like they had to save that Clefable for something. Well, if they're going to bring in the Diggersby, then I'm definitely going to launch a close combat at it. So I go for the close combat, it connects and picks up the KO. In comes Clefable, look at the Fairy Winds, but I get the farm down in the back. It's Dunsparce, and now we see why they ended up throwing that Meteor Mash to stall the clock and pivot out. Because they were ABA weak to fighting, but even doing so, Shadow Primeape able to go on a rampage. Hopping into the final match, we see a Core Breaker on the lead leading into Clodsire. I get to bank a ton of energy on the Malamar, and then the opponent actually ends up bringing in Dugong. I land the foul play. A second foul play wouldn't quite knock out here. It'd be very close, so I'm going to guarantee the knockout with the Superpower. Opponent is going to shield. But look at this from Malamar. If they Icy Wind, and I'm expecting them to, it's not going to KO, even despite the defense drop, and I can make a Superpower. So I force either the second shield, or I get the knockout. I don't really want to surrender farm to Clodsire, so I'm just going to bring in the Toxapex. This Clodsire banked a ton of energy from earlier. Honestly, they can probably get 2 Earthquakes before I even get to my Brine, and if they do, that's very fine. I get the Brine, I lose Charge Attack priority, and that's okay. I'm just going to let this go. 2-shield Primeape all the way, but my opponent baited. They were confident that I would protect the Toxapex, when in reality, I'm just saving shields for the Primeape. They're going to have to commit to an Earthquake. A Sludge Bomb will not do enough damage from here. They are going to go for the Earthquake, and now it's Shadow Primeape time. In the back, it's going to be Serperior. Serperior going to strike first with an Aerial Ace. I need to overfarm as much energy as possible with the Primeape. Primeape, I'm going to farm up to 1 over the double close combat. Okay, Primeape, let's see what you got. Serperior, it's very bulky, but it just gets KO'd. Back in comes Clodsire. I have 2 more close combats, and this thing is so much fun. They can use their final shield on close combat number 1, but there's more where that came from. Primeape knocks out the Clodsire, and that is a good game. All in all, I think that Shadow Primeape does have some pretty nice potential in the current Open Great League meta. Of course, with rumors of Annihilate Community Days in the future, If you get a Shadow Mankey, it'll probably be worth also getting a potential PvP IV1 for Annihilate, just in case the Community Day move ends up being a fast move. Because obviously, it has great charge moves. The final form Annihilate does, it just needs a fast move. But with regards to Shadow Primeape, I think it's definitely going to be in contention as one of the top fighters in the meta. Obviously, currently we have Pangoro and Shadow Machamp as the current fighters of choice, but I do think that there is going to be a place for Shadow Primeape. Shadow Primeape, of course, is glassier than all those other fighters, which is a bit of a negative, but that also does mean that its close combats hit harder than either Pangoro or a close combat from Shadow Machamp. So I think realistically, you could probably use any of the three and have a decent amount of success. Like Pangoro benefits from the fact that due to its Shadow Claw resist, it's a lot stronger into Feraligatr. Machamp, of course, has Stone Edge, which does give it a better get out of jail free card if it gets stuck against something like a fairy type. But I think there is something to be said for Shadow Primeape, and it's just entirely focusing on zero bulk and all damage all the time. So the good news is, it seems like this is a very playable fighter. Whether it's the best, I think it's going to come down to personal preference. Personally, I think I'll use it a little bit. I do like Machamp quite a bit. And Machamp being able to tank the draw run slightly better on Dunsparce, to me, kind of tilts the scales a little bit towards Machamp, but I do think Shadow Primeape with this moveset will be very playable. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.